Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Yes, today on episode 117, we have the welcome return of Minter Dial. He was on the podcast on episode 72. Reason why he was returned is he has a book coming out called You Lead. We talked about many different topics. We talked about how what made him come up with this book, some of the concepts from the book. We also talked about his podcast as well and what he might be planning to do, getting that out there for the future. Got to say, love talking to this guy. He always leaves me much more informed, educated, and yes, I always look forward to speaking with him in the future. So please sit back, enjoy the podcast, and yeah, have an awesome day. Anyway, have a good one. Peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! This is episode 117, where I have the immense pleasure to welcome back Minter Dial. How are you today, sir?
I am rolling. Thanks for having me back, and congratulations on the steadfast rhythm that you have.
Huh?
Shows great persistence.
Uh, got to keep pushing forward. Got to keep pushing forward. Yes. The reason why you're back today is you have a new book coming out early next year. By the time this podcast is out, it will be out on the streets. Yes, You Lead. How long did it take you to come up with this book?
Well, there's a long story in this movie. So let me say that I started writing this book back in 2014. And at the time, it was going to be the book of my life. And I had this big ambition. You know, like some people say everyone has a book in them.
Yeah.
This was going to be it. But little did I know, no, that's not true. It was a lot more circuitous, the route. And for a number of absolutely crazy reasons, absolutely crazy reasons, I had to put it on the shelf. And I did something else. And that led me to do documentary film and might write my other books, each time for completely ridiculous reasons, serendipitous and sometimes not so fun.
Yeah.
And then finally, I got back to this one. And when Kogan Page, my publisher, looked at the idea and came to me, they said, no, we don't want to make it that type of book. We want to make it a leadership book. So it's the same content, but positioned for leaders, because really the book of my life was all about how do you lead your life? And I wanted it to be so vast as to include how to be a father, how to be a husband, how to be a friend, and how to lead at the company. So it's all about leading yourself and with everyone around you. And that was what I sort of originally thought about in this book. And it's come out, it's mostly focused, obviously, on leading in business.
Right. Like with regards to leadership in business, especially now, like does it sort of like, you know, how you've got your peacetime leader role and then like your sort of wartime leader role. And like basically right now, I would say in our sort of time of crisis, this is more of a wartime leader role. Does it sort of delve into that, or is it just general?
It's general in that respect. And it's an interesting point because let's say that I'm very quick to say, if you're in business and you are dying for cash, let's put aside some of the other wonderful ideas and let's get cash in the till. There's a pragmatism, because if you're going to go out of business next week, let's not worry about the long-term plans and what we're going to launch in 2024.
Yeah.
We've got to get cash in the till this week. So sometimes it's about being pragmatic. And yet, even in crisis, I would even say specifically because of the pandemic, the notion of being you as an entire individual has never been more important in work. And while I wrote this essentially and delivered the final manuscript about 4 days before we went into lockdown in March of 2020, I didn't adapt very much because the same premise held before. But now when you have all these moments where by Zooms and the like, we're seeing into each other's lives,
Mm.
it's now more and more obvious for me, and I think for others, how we need to be fully ourselves, because maybe my daughter might run in, maybe my cat will jump on the table, maybe you can see my personal stuff,
Yeah.
and that leads me to want to have a more consistent me. Of course, you can always try to hide everything and stay superficial, or you can try to lean in, be genuine, let's say authentic, and that will make people believe you and want to follow you more.
Mm. Yeah, like the amount of sort of with regards to the lockdown and basically people doing interviews like this on television, everything like this, especially when it came to sort of government officials, like everyone was like, okay, I think what a lot of people didn't realize how like someone would actually freeze it all and simply go through each frame by frame, and people started reading what books they had on their shelves and stuff like this. So there was kind of more of like, oh, you read this book and you read that book and you've got that picture there, why? And people got more intrigued about some of the stuff, people who they are a little bit more so. And as you say, being authentic, which can be difficult at times, especially if you've got a home persona and a work persona as well.
Or you just don't even know who you are.
Yeah, this is very true. Yeah. Who am I? Who am I? Into who am I? It's like, so yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, very tricky indeed. And with this, like, would you say if someone went, yeah, I don't know who I am or where I sort of need to be, would you say there are sort of exercises within your book to sort of like give you a little bit more of a, how can I put it, a North Star to who you can be?
Of course. So I think that the starting point is just leaning in
Mm.
and feeling about yourself. Are you really aware? Can you, if you're always smiling, does that mean you're always happy? Just being more self-aware is the sort of open that, that kimono, if you will, to understanding it. And then I do have a very specific exercise, but there are many different ones I could propose, but different exercises to try to help you understand who you are. And let me start by saying that I think that a lot of people think they know who they are.
Mm.
Intellectually, we're smart enough. Yeah, of course, yeah, I know who I am, of course. Who are you to tell me?
Yeah.
But if you're in a more intimate environment, who am I? People start to say, well, yeah, I'm not so sure. And the issue is at some level, on an intellectual level, is we tend to have very broad ideas of who we are or who we want to be. And the way I like to frame it is that if you ask people, who do you want to be in 20 years time? And I said, how many of you want to be healthy, wealthy, and having fun? And everyone would raise their hand.
Mm.
The issue with that description is that it's not specific. And so we have a tendency to want to generalize what we are in the future, because who knows what the future is going to be. So yeah. Well, I just want to be happy, healthy, and wealthy, or whatever.
Yeah.
But these are general characteristics. So the challenge is making those characteristics much more specific to you, that speak to you and differentiate you from the others.
Mm.
Because while we need to belong, we also need to feel as individuals. We might be 7 billion plus rolling around the world, and therefore might have people who look like me or act like me in certain areas. You each want to feel like I'm an individual.
Mm.
So the way to do that is to bear down and try to have a more precise vision of who you want to be. And so I talk about, as you say, this North Star idea.
Yeah.
And the concept is there's various ways to do it. But imagine, as I write in my book, you are having a birthday party, and it's going to be let's say for me, because I can reveal my own age. I'm 56. And imagine I'm going to have my 75th birthday. So that means in 19 years' time, I'm going to be 75, which, wow, that's a thought, by the way. So at my 75th birthday party, I am going to be sitting at a table and I'm going to have 5 friends or 5 people I'm going to invite. And they could be dead or alive, but they're going to be important people to me. They might be people I haven't met even, could be role models or your daughter that you don't have or whatever,
Right?
And you just imagine these 5 people, but they need to be quite graphic, because what you want to do is ask these 5 people to, at the dinner party or lunch, there's a cake comes out and you blow the candles out, and then everybody gets to say something. And they're going to say the following thing: Minter, happy birthday, mate. You're 75 today. This is why I love you. Or this is why I respect you, whatever you want them to say. But it's going to be about who you are, not what you did. Because sure as shit, they're not going to say, I love you because you were the CEO. Right?
Yeah.
That's whatever. So the idea is to describe yourself, project a definition of yourself according to who you are, not what you do or what you did. Of course, you need actions that substantiate who you are, but focus on this exercise on that. And once you got those 5 sentences from those 5 individuals, which is a very strategic thing to do, to pick those 5 individuals, by the way, then you have material to craft what is you, or what is the you that you want to be. And that then you can work with that raw material and craft a sentence which goes along the lines of, I want to be known for the person who was always there for me, or who was generous or someone who's always provoking, or who was just loving without condition, or whatever.
Yeah.
So these descriptions, so that becomes my specific North Star, with the words that are specifically tailored to you. It's going to be more than just what I was saying. It's going to be a longer phrase. And then that then becomes your determinant as to what you are and are not going to do today, because everything needs to feed into that. And the more precise and owned that phrase is, your North Star, the more clear things become amongst the choices. And importantly, the more you're doing things that are aligned with that star, the more it's going to bring you back energy, even if it requires a substantial amount of energy to do.
Yeah, no, very nice, very nice. Like that. Yeah, like this is a thing. I with this, if you did this book, say any other year, I would say this would not sort of be, I think, present in many people's mind. As present in many people's mind, because like, yeah, there are a lot of people out there who've had to change careers, jobs going left, right, and center. Casualties of this, that, the other. But they would not be like, okay, yes, who am I? Where am I going? Or is what I'm doing right now what I want to do for the next 20, 30 years? Or what is my legacy going to be? Right now I think there's a lot of people like going, yeah, okay, right. They might have the wolf at the door needing to pay their bills, but they're still like going, okay, this can happen again. And what do I want from this life of mine? The only life we get, So I would
there are
say,
2 things that are contributed to that. One is the extra time. So rather than commute for an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back, and where you're always running against time, we now have more time to think about things. And of course, you're also in the cauldron of a specific place, which sort of like a zit becomes something you need to pop. And you're no longer comfortable all the time. You don't have time for air. You're confined. So it pushes you to question life. And the second thing, of course, is when you have something that threatens you existentially, as in death. You're like, well, if I only have a few years to live, do I want to be doing what I'm doing? And while you may need to get the food in the door for now, I can't wait to jump to do something that's more worthwhile, more meaningful. And I think that's where you're right, is that we're in an existential crisis, and it's giving many people the opportunity, I'd like to say, to rethink what they're doing and hopefully lean in on doing things that are more meaningful.
Mm. Yeah, because like this is the thing. Like when we last spoke, I, I said your career has been a career of two halves. You like went, okay, working for L'Oreal, everything's great. And then you was like, you know what, stop. And then you like speaker, like, yeah, consultant, yeah, podcaster, and like author, and the list goes on and on. Like with that, like what, like how did your sort of, I don't know if it was a crisis or you just made, I can't remember if it was a crisis or just a clear decision to like make that change, to find that leadership. What was the sort of key for you? So we can revisit that.
Right. So it's an interesting question. And let's say that it's come up a few times now.
Hmm.
And it gave me the opportunity to dig in on myself a bit. And what I've observed in my life is that actually I had a specific week that was a major crisis week, but crisis in the wonderful tradition of Chinese, where there was change and opportunity.
Yeah.
And I had that week back in September 2001, living in Manhattan and dealing with everything that went down that week in Manhattan. But it didn't change overnight. And whereas some people will have a life-changing moment that overnight switches things, I tend to believe that generally speaking, there'll be a trigger, and then there's a general process of layering into, because you know it's not practical for people necessarily to slam the door and just leave the job right away, because you still have a mortgage to pay, and you know there's a level of responsibility that goes into the manner in which you change in general. But what I would say is that, so I had this particular moment, and then little by little I just felt more and more detached from the importance of selling shampoos the way they were being sold at L'Oreal. So that you can sell shampoos and have meaningfulness in the way you do it or not. So I felt detached from that, and I said, enough already. I need to be doing something else. And I wanted to have more impact in what I was feeling was more important to me, which is essentially to elevate the debate and make the world, as best I can, a better place. And so how was I going to do that? Well, then I felt like, oh, maybe I should, talk about it, and maybe I can do it with lots of companies, not just one. Maybe I can eventually write the book of my life, which turned into a few. And by the way, I've got two more I'm going to do so far in my mind.
Oh.
Anyway, so that and then the film and all these different ideas as methods to propagate my message, if you will. It's all rather subtle. It's not I try not to be over the head in my messaging, but I do try to have a consistent line throughout each of my works, talks, and life in general. Even when I'm at home, I want it, there's connecting the dots between everything I'm doing to make sense.
Mm. Like, like this is the thing. It like to get to that point, to sort of really sort of find yourself. And I think this is what people don't realize, the amount of hard work it is, because the amount of times people like they shuffle from this mortal core, not even knowing themselves, because they like, as you say, they go, I know myself, but they haven't sort of done that work which is required. And like, look, through the different mediums you've like gone through to get to where you are today, look, I forgot about the documentary, to be absolutely honest, but doing a documentary is hard enough. Doing like this is now your fourth book, doing 3 books prior, and you're talking about doing another 2. That's hard work. And like basically, do you like do you think there are going to be a number of people who are going to put in the hard work this time around, because it is a fundamental change? Or do you think it's going to be a case of people can still seek that realm of comfort?
I want to say two things. One is I suspect that we'll have a regular distribution, unfortunately. I would hope that more people are going to lean in and become more aware of themselves. But I also think that there's a countercurrent where which could lead to ugly things.
Mm.
Of course, that may be who you are. The person has ugly thoughts and bad intentions, and so they discover that, and I think that is sort of an undercurrent of the more nationalistic approaches and some of the more hardcore leaders in certain countries.
Mm.
Sorry,
What?
so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. As you were saying,
I don't know how to turn it off.
like just launch it across the room.
Exactly. Without my wife being upset at me, maybe I should have added that qualification. So let me just because I had the second point. Is that okay? Did you you'll be able to cut that out, right?
Yep, no worries.
Yeah. So we have this undercurrent that may be more negative in the way that people are viewing themselves, and an example might be Trump. He is very authentic. He's true to himself,
Mm.
and that's probably not a good thing. So on the one hand, it almost feels a license to be less good is coming out in this understanding of who you want to be and saying what I want to say, even if it might not, if it hurts people and or is not good for the other people. So I on balance, I tend to hope anyway that people will want to lean in and strive for a better thing, because on the other side of hope, you have fear. And in this pandemic, fear has been the operative word. Very few people are striving for hope. There's a fundamental reason for the fear when it comes to certain people that unfortunately have suffered or died because of the pandemic.
Mm.
But that happens every year. And if you want you can latch onto anything to drive fear. So my encouragement is to try to look at some hopeful indicators that will make you more fulfilled if you're more aware of your North Star. Because that energy that you get when you finally say, aha, wow, it's ridiculous. Because first of all, I'm going to stop doing shit that's tiring me out, that's getting me off track, that's not contributing. Second of all, when I do the stuff that I'm doing, whoa, fucking A, this is great. I love it. The second thing I wanted to mention, though, is my wife. And when I went through this process, I was fortunate to be accompanied by somebody who gives me tough love. And basically, when I say something, she calls me out. Mentor, no good. That's not you. Come on, I know you better. And it's useful to have a sounding board, somebody who is sufficiently aware of who you are in the bad and the good, and is able to tell you to your face, mentor, rein it in, boy, or whatever. And so the point, so the point is having somebody who can help you to learn who you are can be really useful, because our ability to look in the mirror and see truthfully is inevitably a little tainted.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And when you say, yeah, having someone in your life to like, okay, look, come on now, be real. That is a very difficult thing to find, because what I tend to find with people, like, they meet you a certain way or a certain place in your life, and like you get on. I like you. I like you just the way you are. Yeah, it's great.
I've heard of that. I heard that somewhere. I think
I'm
this is
like,
a
yeah.
song.
Well, yes. I won't sing a rendition of that. Who knows? Copyright claims and
You'll be banned from YouTube.
yes, and yeah, my lyrical range not quite where it used to be. But yeah, they like you just the way you are. And if you're sort of striving to go like move yourself up, there are people like, yeah, you don't want to do that. You're kind of like, yeah, don't do this, it's going to be painful, don't do that, it's going to be wrong. Like sometimes it's just masking stuff what's within them, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, stay here with me. If you become someone else, like if you can become better, I'm not too sure we'll be able to hang or do the same things we normally do. And having people who are like, hey, you know what? And I don't mean like people who are just like down on you, to putting you down into a negative place, but to like go, yeah, you know what? If you did this, you'll be so much more of a better person. It's not that I don't like who you are right now. It's just if you want to be your best self, that is a very rare thing to find. I can only say there's only been a handful of people in my life who've been like, hey, come on now, what's going on? And many a person out there, they don't have that at all. They've got yes people around them, which doesn't serve them well, doesn't help them in the long run.
And I think it's particularly the challenge in a work environment where, let's say you're my boss.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you something that you're not going to like. There are few people that have the cojones to do that. The relationship, the trust, and I mean, it needs to be configured as a relationship where we're allowed to do that. Because if I just come out and scream at my boss,
good luck
in front of everybody else, I don't think that's going to work well, come out well for you. So in the workplace, it's also codified. So you have to break that down. In a private space, it's much less codified. And you can find those people if you're willing, but you need to show that you're able to listen without retribution. You know, and that's a hard place to be. You need to have a certain peace within you to listen deeply to the person who's speaking to you now, because it's a present that they're trying to give to you. But the little fear factor, the monkey on your shoulder, the chip or the whatever, is going to start making you think differently and or not receive the information in a way that's constructive. So deep breath and listen.
Yes. Put your ego aside, people. Put your ego aside. Put that aside, and yeah, you never know how far you can grow. But yeah, like I've just got to think with this being your fourth book, and you say you want to do 2 more books as well, like, and you've put this aside. So like with this, how do you think things with yourself for your next few years with the realms of growth? Has it changed since we last spoke? Have you like been more sort of galvanized to do different things?
So I have resolved myself to the reality that my future will probably entail much more of talking in a rectangle to a monitor than it is going to be to thousands of adulating fans in a concert hall. So yeah, that wasn't going to happen anyway. But I think that the challenge is figuring out how to transmit my energy, my message, if you will, through a little camera into bedrooms and offices and home offices around the world. And so I've spent a considerable amount of time, including on equipment and methodologies, to think about how to do that effectively, including, of course, things like sound quality and playing with silence.
I see.
This is see, yes. It can change people's ways of listening. And right? Exactly. Yeah, so if we're able to think through the techniques, just like an actor on a stage, this is what it is. This is what I've been toying with at that first level. The other level is these other 2 books that I have in mind, probably indicative of the path, and whichever I write first will certainly be, I suppose, important. One is very personal and really goes back into the notion of of looking at my personality, and within that, it's not about me. It's about a personal story that I think is instructive for others. And the other one is really about how absolutely tiny I am in light of consciousness
Mm.
in the bigger story. And so in light of is the appropriate term, because it's about this notion of enlightenment.
Yeah.
And how do business people, even politicians, stay enlightened despite their antiquity, old-fashionedness, received wisdoms? How do we move from the way it was done to the way it could be done?
Mm.
And so that's what that book's about. And it's sort of, it really, it spells it spells trouble in some ways, because I want to talk about the absolutely magnificent opportunities that lie within psychedelics.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Like a little mushroom here, a little bit mushroom there.
You
Peyote.
got it.
Okay.
That's it. All
Ah.
that good stuff. So, but that's what I'm thinking about, and expressing it, of course, with lots of personal stories, and hopefully a few experiments. Anyway, we'll see about that.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing a few experiments, like um, maybe like in another country and stuff like this. Yeah. Just saying.
Say no more. Nudge, nudge. Wink, wink.
Yeah. I might be there, but that's another story. But yeah, no, I think with regards to sort of how like businesses, politicians might have to look at the way things are changing. Uh, like I would say, with regards to realms of business, that's most likely going to be a lot easier. In the realms of politics, hey, I think that's going to be a little bit more dicey. Look, with this 2020, where it should be more focused on like the UK going with Brexit, has been, yes, definitely a major, not a distraction, but this has been something which has been like far bigger. And now with the end of the year coming up and deadlines looming, is it the 31st of this month when it is the, okay, yeah. Yeah, Brexit and how this country is going to sit within Europe and how it's going to be trading. That's another story right now.
So I have a feeling that the business side of things will not be so easy. So
Really?
first of all, I think economically it's going to be a disaster, or a very big issue going forward. You only need to look under the cover of many of the poorer countries in the world to see real devastation.
Hmm.
The impact of the lack of trading, the GDP going down in our country. Sometimes it means, I might have £1,000 less to individuals, but for the ripple effect into the more impoverished countries of the world is going to be huge. We're going to see famine. We're going to see waves of migrants. We're going to see certain countries continue, a la Duterte in the Philippines, to use this opportunity to batten down liberties and freedom. And that's where it plays into the political environment, which, by the way, includes us as human beings, because while the politicians sit in different offices,
Hmm.
it does have an impact on us. And I think that we have seen in this pandemic, the way it's played out, a siege on democracy, a siege on our liberties, and most depressingly, a monolithic approach by media in the way that they talk about what's happening. And more often than not, a media that's in cahoots with the government, no matter what side
Hmm.
it is. And this monolithic element, without debate, feels very scary, and in certain bad hands will go worse. So I think that on the business side, we really will need to bear down on what we are here for, why we are here, and understand that ultimately it will win out. But if you need cash in the door, it's going to be a tough struggle between the purpose, the long-term intentions, and keeping cash in the door. And on the government, or the let's say the political side, I see a lot of shifting going on, where media is still struggling to get eyeballs, to get payment, to survive. Some of them are needing to play a different type of game, which isn't really what media or news outlets should be doing. Investigative news outlets ought to be able to say things that are contrary to the common received wisdoms that are being touted. So I think there's three things. There's politics, media, and business. I think all three of them have had a real run-in, if you will, in the last 12 months. And I foresee real fallout in all three categories going forward. So yeah, there. It's a rather gloomy idea, but I stick with what I want to do, which is to keep on, despite all that, providing hope to people. And as an individual, the real message is, despite all the shit that's going around us, figure out what your North Star is, and you shall lead a life that is fulfilled. You may not have as many toys in the bank or in your chest of toys, but you will feel a better, bigger person for it if you can find your North Star and follow it. That energy will allow you to overcome the fact that you're not driving an expensive car, you're driving a regular car. You may not have every gadget, but who cares? Those are material possessions. We're going to need to figure out how to be more fulfilled without going on a shopping spree.
Yeah. No, like this is a thing with regards to myself. Like, yeah, my lady sometimes like worries. Like, if I was in charge of things in this household, yeah, I think he'll be just like, yeah, it's a room, there's a bed in the corner, there's a TV, yeah, there's a table, and yeah, just fair amounts of like minimal cutlery, and she'll be like, yes, because she goes, I'm a natural minimalist when it comes to that type of thing. But with regards to like, yeah, what you're saying about the media and getting messages out, and because they're losing sort of revenue because they're doing more of, I would say, a clickbait sort of like sensationalist rhetoric more and more. But I would say with today's technology, as you say, you've invested, you're going to be more in the little like squares and stuff like this. You have the potential of much more reach than ever before. Look, I was checking out your page, and like, yeah, there's a little like website called Social Blade. You've like had 50 something thousand views on your YouTube channel, like to date. Like, yeah, I don't know if you know this, but yeah, but it's one of those
That's
things.
news. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but this is the thing. 50,000 views. That could be some people watching again and again and again, but that could be just, yeah, 50,000 different individuals which have watched your content over the period of the lifetime of your YouTube channel. So that means that's a hell of a lot of people to get in contact with. Oh, some might go, oh, but it's not a million. No, shut up. Forget that. It's like, look, it's still 50,000 people, which you wouldn't have been able to do that before. Like,
you're 100% right. And I think that is like this dimension of purpose. A lot of people get a little bit stuck because they want to do the big thing. They want to make big impact. And I say that the generosity starts with yourself, your family, people on your street, whatever dimension you can go for. Just be somewhat realistic about it, and then start proceeding. And it may turn out to be more than your street. Maybe you can do your town.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do your city, your country, the world. But just dimension your ambition, if you will, and then go for it and make it happen. And the other thing I should say in the realm of positive thought is, as you were mentioning, when I get to have a greater reach, I like more the interest of the diversity of the reach. So I can have people coming to speak or listen, both from all over the world. And that is a very enriching concept, that we can have. It's no longer just in the people in my vicinity who are going to come to my speech, or if I go to Shanghai, only the people in Shanghai. I can have people from all over the world, presuming we can speak the same language, participate.
Mm. Yeah, with this, like you've like made the investment to get sound quality up and make things better. But like, yes, do you think you're gonna be like, say, branching out more, say, with your YouTube channel rather than just doing a podcast, something more sort of serialistic? Or is it just going to be a case of you're happy where you are right now?
Well, I'm not happy where I am,
Mm,
and I'm not well, because I think I have this ambition to do more, and I think that the way forward will be through collaboration.
mhm,
And I can't just sort of do this in my own corner. Interesting story, Miwa, is with Dan Snow, who I had on my show recently, the historian, and he talked about his journey from a podcaster
mhm,
to exiting or he's selling a TV network. And what he did is he used the podcast as top of the funnel to bring in people on history, and he has millions of people downloading his show every week. And then from that, he was able to construct a platform to create History Hit TV, a network, which he ended up selling because it has a subscriber base who pay moolah to watch. So, and he didn't do that by himself. And so I think it's a pretty good instruction on ideas of giving out free content like I do with the
mhm.
blog, with the podcast, and try to figure out a path that I also need to pay for food on my plate and create a little bit more substantial ongoing business. I'm not looking to make a lot of money and I'm not looking to sell out and exit and all that. But to your point, I think I do need to find a way to be a little bit more constructive in this new mode
Mm.
where I can't just rely on people flying me out to speak for thousands of pounds. I'll need to figure out how to make this little environment in my little office in West Kensington a little
Yeah.
better.
No, like this is the thing. If anyone can, I'm sure you can. Look,
That's
this is
very
the thing.
kind.
Oh yeah, like this is the thing. As I say, you are a busy puppy, and look, over the last few weeks, and like with the, I always check before I have anyone on. Yeah, your podcasting game has really sort of upped itself over the last few weeks. Yes, fulfilling your sort of meeting a person an interesting person every day, if I remember rightly.
That's
Uh,
so right.
yes, I've tried to help you in that as best I can, and fingers
Appreciate
crossed
that.
things will happen for you. But yeah, so with this, like, if you had to have a couple, like a hit list of people you wanted to get on your podcast for 2021, is there any sort of particular name out there? See if we can sort of bring that forth from the universe.
So, um, yeah, I wouldn't mind having Steve Jobs on.
Ooh.
Could be a challenge.
Well, hey, like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, Steve Jobs. Yeah, I, as I say, I am a being of supreme cosmic power, but yeah, I can't be bringing people back from the dead. Maybe.
But it might be that I have to go the other side.
Uh,
No, I would probably of the interesting people I would love to have. I'd like to have Michelle Obama.
mm,
Um, I I probably would be tending towards to look at more iconic names out there because I enjoy these conversations and assuming that they're the path to have them on the show is equally enjoyable for them,
mm,
then I think it would be a useful idea going forward. So Branson, he would be. I mean, I've had a chance to chat with him, and so I think it would be, he'd be an interesting chap to have on, and certainly Bezos comes to mind. So those are the types of names that I would be interested in having on. But why on earth would they want to spend time on my show? I have no idea. But here, let me tell you though. On the other side, the types of people that I do look for, because I get unsolicited requests about 2 to 3 a day,
yeah.
and they are just generally not interesting to me. What I am looking for are people who have large personalities that are doing interesting things and have diverse voices. So because big interesting doesn't necessarily have to be big worldwide. It can be doing big things in small places,
Yeah.
because that's great too. And so I'm looking for personalities, I'm looking for authors, and looking for people with diverse voices. So I oftentimes, when it comes to the diverse voices, I have to reach out. I have to look intentionally to
Mm.
find them. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. 2021.
Okay, 2021. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for myself. Yes,
Yay.
2021. Like, yeah, look, seeing as you've returned and like, look, I've been revealing to people, yes, I'm a being of supreme cosmic power. We may have had this like conversation before, but yeah, I'll give you one more wish. It's like for like the future. Look, can't be doing the Steve Jobs thing because that's either like bring him back from the dead, no, or like send you through time travel. And look, like I see the mischief in your eyes. I'm like, yeah, before I know it. Like, how are you sitting in that mansion? No, quick investment there, over there. What would your one wish be for the next, say, 5 years?
My one wish for the next 5 years, that I am able to have more meaningful conversations in real life with people. That's something I think. I think the healing of the world will happen through meaningful conversations, and I love it when I have them. I would seek to have more of them, and it's not about me touching other people. It's about me being touched by other people through meaningful conversations. And so I endeavor to do them best I can, even through lockdown mode, where I do a thing called empathy circles, which are lasting 2 hours long. And I do it with 3 or 4 other people. And for 2 hours, we have a meaningful conversation. And that's really what I set it out to be. But I can't do them so often, and getting everybody organized and wanting to do it. We usually, my wife and I, which is that second book I was telling you about, like to do these, have meaningful conversations at dinner parties. So
Hmm.
rather than have conversations where we're talking about how great my children are and what I do for a living and all this other shit that really, I could go without. I want to create environments where we have more meaningful conversations, and I think in this way we all grow. And I think people often say to me, so what, at the end of an empathy circle or at the end of a meaningful conversation.
Hmm.
And I say, well, so what now? Well, now is what?
Think-
Enjoy the now
Yeah.
and make it rich, make it meaningful. And then that's, for me, the healing path for the future.
Ah, superb. I think that's an excellent point to end this conversation. You, Minter, you superstar. Always a pleasure to have you on. Can you tell the lovely people how they can get hold of you out there, where they can purchase your book, and yeah, everything.
Thank you for having me on. You have a lovely energy, Muwa, and it's a pleasure to be on. So, Minter Dial is the name. It's this God-given, what is parentally given gift of a weird name. That means that there ain't two of us around. So, minterdial.com. My books are available on all forms of e-tailers, and I might invoke another one which has come up called bookshop.org, which is a new initiative out of the United States intending to help independent booksellers. So my books are available on that. But of course, you can go and check it out on that little one. I think it's called
Don't,
Amo,
no, no, don't
yeah,
worry about
no,
those guys. Yeah, on Amazon.
Amoa Masamat. There we
Oh,
go.
mm.
The love. It's all about love. It's all about love. Yeah. So yeah, my and otherwise you can check me out on Twitter. I'm at mdial on pretty much every social media there is out there.
Superb. I'll put all the links in the description, show notes, so you guys can find it. Please click, please purchase his book. And yes, superb. So I want to just say thank you. to Minter for being on today. I'd like to say thank you to my friends, my life warriors out there who are still with us right now. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yeah. Peace. And we are